Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast. My guest this week is Dr. Wayne Pernell. And Wayne's going to tell you a little bit more about himself and his career journey in just a minute. But I wanted to call out why I have him on the podcast today. So obviously this is about sharing our stories and our journeys about success and finding work that we love and that we're really passionate about and how we got there. And when I pick people to be on my podcast, that's really the only criteria. You have to love what you're doing. And I met Wayne we were both on a workshop back in a couple months ago. And when I heard him talk, I knew right away that he seemed, and I'm not sure I can say I knew, seemed like a happy person, like he loved what he did, and that he wanted others to love what they do too. So I could just tell that he wanted to share those gifts and he wanted people to have the same peace and meaning that he had in his career and in his life. So that's why you're here today, Wayne. So thanks for joining me. As soon as I reached out, you said, of course I will. I'd love to. And so thank you.
Of course I will. No, it's so great, Julie. It's amazing. So
yeah. So I just got, you meet people and you get a sense about them, and that was my sense about you. I don't think I was wrong, and that's why we're talking today. So I appreciate you sharing your insights and sharing with everyone the work that you're doing. So let's start with the first question. I know that the work you're doing now is coaching and more mentoring people and helping them to be powerfully present. And you could talk a little bit more about that. Did you know, and I think I knew that you were also a counselor or a therapist along the way, so you can clarify that. Did you know that you were going to be doing this work years ago? Did you know your path was always going to lead to this? Or did you start off in a completely different area, like when you were in school and what you studied and stuff?
Yeah, I think most people actually start down one path and life serves them up a curveball here or there, and they end up going, how did I even get here? I had the good fortune of knowing, just solid knowing, in the 7th grade that I wanted to go into psychology. It was a career day, and this psychologist came to speak to us. And besides the brown on tan kind of clothing he was wearing, which I didn't actually appreciate, what I did love was everything he said made so much sense. You get to talk to people, you get to help them sort through what they're going through, and you get to offer guidance and really support them in finding their own path. This is huge. So in the 7th grade, I knew that I wanted to go into psychology. And then I took that into high school, and at some point, one of my teachers laughed at me. Like, this is ridiculous. You're ridiculous. You'll never get a PhD. Why would you, even think you could do that? And it was one of those really life-changing moments for me where I realized he's crazy, not me. That was a big deal. So to recognize that I had something in mind and I needed to do it. And I did. I actually pursued it all the way through. I went to college. Psych was my major. I went to graduate school, got my master's, earned my doctorate. And what's funny is that in earning my doctorate, I realized this wasn't the path. It was like I got myself on a path. I thought I was going to be a traditional psychologist and stroke my goatee and pontificate. But that wasn't my path. It was the first left turn in my journey was served to me when a man called me and said, hey, I was doing couples work even before, along the way, as part of my getting my doctorate. I was doing couples work, and I had a private practice along with another psychologist. And this man calls me and he says, hey, that thing you did with me and my wife, can you do that thing you did? Can you do that with me and my vice president? And I was like,
Oh.
that thing I did. And it was basic couples communication. And I was open enough to say yes. And I went to their office and I taught them how to communicate. And it was values-based communications. So we created working agreements. We created a values-based vision. We created a strategy. we created a strategy based on this values-based vision. And about the third or fourth time that I showed up, the line staff was just out there praising my arrival, saying, because of the work you've done with them, and they point up to the top floor, we are clearer about our direction. Thank you for being here. And that's where the left turn happened. Was I began doing focus groups with line staff, middle management, senior management, and really I became a leadership coach, an executive leadership coach at that point. And yes, I completed my doctorate. Yes, I had a private practice for a short time, and I also went on and started consulting with some pretty major firms along the way. And it's been an amazing journey. It's just been an amazing journey. I've now done it for 3.5 decades.
Wow.
And it's yeah.
Okay, so hold on one second. I want to go back to that 7th grade, knowing that the 7th grader, which is like 12 or 13 years old, which is crazy because most people, I want to be a cop or I want to be a fireman, but they don't, you loved everything he said. And I love that story. When you got a little older, I just want to clarify, the teacher that said you can't do that when you said you wanted to study psychology, was it because he didn't think you had it in you, or he thought that was a silly career? I just want to clarify, like, you were like, no, he's crazy, not me.
Yeah.
What about yourself did he think was not? I'm just curious, and that you knew that it wasn't.
See, along the way, and I think this is huge for our listeners, along the way, we are taught to be reasonable. And I'm allergic to the word reasonable and realistic. Be realistic. Choose a goal that you can attain. Be realistic, be reasonable. And I'm like, I'm not. And what he saw in me in high school was that I was unreasonable. I was playful. I was not the best student partly because I was being told what to do. And it's like, I learned differently. And most people learn differently than by sitting still and opening a textbook when everybody opens it, or by listening to lecture after lecture after lecture during the day. Most people don't learn very well that way. And I sure didn't.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. So you knew enough about yourself. I've heard this time and time again where people along the way, they'll tell someone their dream or their goal, and someone, oh my gosh, it breaks my heart, whether it's a parent or a teacher, says like, no, you can't. It's like, oh my gosh, what you're saying to that person? Because
Exactly.
that person might be you that says, oh no, you're crazy, I'm not. Or it could be the opposite. You know what? They're right. I'm not going to do that. And then they go down a completely different path. They probably end up where they were going to start initially, but maybe they wasted 10 or 20 or 30 years, which is so unnecessary.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it could be necessary. Here's the thing, is that we learn. If you choose to take those diversions as learning opportunities, it's like you would be, you're a better coach, you're a better whatever, because you took that opportunity to go down a path that you felt punished by at first. It's like, I was told I would never do this. It's like, okay, so now what? Like, I just spoke with a woman who's in her early 60s, and she's like, well, my sister laughed at me when I told her I wanted to go into, to be a medical, a physician, and to go into obstetrics. And my, it's like, why? What, why would I want to do that? And it's like, well, okay, so you chose a different path. Now what? Right? Now what? Now you're at a place where you're 60. What other gifts do you have? And is it truly too late for you to go down the path that you want?
Yeah.
And if, part of it is this, Julie, is that people hold on to the old story. I was told this, so I had to give up my dream, and my dream is still this. And actually, in talking with this woman, she's like, that's not actually my dream anymore. Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
this dream was taken away from me. Awesome. So go live in that drama or choose not to. What's your current dream? And if you're honest with yourself, you've been holding on to a story that isn't real anymore.
Right.
And she's like, well, now, I mean, my dream is really to be a singer. It's like, awesome. Do that. Go do that. Right?
Okay. So you finish your PhD. You're not going to do the academic route. You start coaching and you start doing couples therapy. We're doing that while you're getting your PhD. And then you get this question, which I love that you went down that path, because of course that guy that asked you that question was there for a reason, guiding you along. You probably didn't realize. And then, so you're doing that and you're coaching for companies now, and you're doing leadership coaching and values. What did you call it? Values.
Values-based vision.
Yeah, value-based vision.
That's the strategic direction, and that's the work I do with individuals. I am known as the powerful presence mentor, and it's all based in what's your values. It's based in how are you communicating. It's based in how you show up, what command you have. Cutting through means cutting out, and how do you combine all of that? So, I mean, that's part of the process. That's what I'm doing these days, is one-to-one and group coaching.
Okay. So when you were doing that, and you said it sounds like you grew your business pretty quickly doing that, what was making you successful along the way, and what was keeping you peaceful and happy and realizing, okay, I love this, and back to that 7th grade boy that's like, this is what I wanted to study. Along the way, over 3 decades of coaching and teaching and developing people, what kept you successful? What made you successful all that time, and what kept you happy and peaceful?
Yeah, it's interesting. The answer is I wasn't always happy and peaceful. And I think that's true for most of our audience too. I think that it's really important to give that permission to recognize that a happy, peaceful path is possible, and that, like an airplane, we might be off course a good portion of time, and the way to get back on course is to pay attention to the instruments. Like, what's your body telling you? What's your mind telling you? I did, I went down that path, and along the way, I also went down the traditional path. I must get a job. I'm getting married. I'm having kids. I need stability. Well, there was a period in my life when I woke up and the first words out of my mouth were, oh, shh, right? And it's like, in my commute, I would get up and I'd get dressed, and it was dark still, and I'd get into my car, and I was in stop and go traffic, stop, go, and the pattern was that stop, go, except that it was stop at one point, and I ran smack into the back of a trash truck, and that was a giant awakening that I wasn't happy or peaceful. I was in stop and go traffic, and I went stop. And then it went stop, and I went stop, go. And how big of an awakening is that? You just ran into the back of a trash truck. Like, what? Like, how distracted are you in your life? And I use that like an external instrument to measure my life and get it back on track. And it, I ended up searching for what am I really passionate about? And it really is about helping people individually and helping teams and groups get better. And I put myself in a job that wasn't that. It was for the sake of stability. And
Yeah.
so it really had me looking at that. So what got me back to happy and peaceful was recognizing a couple of things. What am I good at? And what lights me up? Like, what makes me happy when I'm doing what I do? What makes me happy? It's like, awesome. I get to help people. I have a perspective that nobody else in the world has. And that's so true for every single one of our listeners, that you have a perspective that no one else has. Use that.
I
Right?
love that. A lot of people will say, well, there's other coaches out there, there's other psychologists out there, there's other, of course, there's thousands and thousands of lawyers and doctors. And the whole point is, you are the only one that's just like you, with all your perspectives and values and insights and personality. There's no one else like you, and there's no one that is going to bring the exact same combination of those things to the one piece that you're delivering, the one job you have, the one career you have, the one passion you have. It's never going to be identical to anyone else's. So that was a big lesson for me, I think, in the last like 4 or 5 years. It's not just being able to say there's plenty of, fill in the blank out there. Why would anyone need another one? It's like, because there's not you're not there yet.
Right. So the other thing that happens is people compare themselves. Well, I'm not like so-and-so. I'm not like so-and-so. And the other is, I don't know, there's so many out there. I don't know if becoming one of a coach or a lawyer or whatever, it's like, do we really need another one of those? And exactly, no one has your perspective. The other thing is to recognize, like, a lot of fear comes out, how am I going to make it? The reality is that there's over 7 billion people on the planet. So the question is, how many people in your business do you need to consider yourself to have made it? And can you not get that? Out of 7 billion plus people on the planet, do you not think you can find 5, 10, 20? Like, you don't have to have the millions.
Right.
I mean, you could, and you might, but you don't need it to start.
You don't need it to start, and you probably don't need it to survive or thrive, really.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. I think the other place I think people get stuck, like it has to be bigger, and it's like, no, not necessarily. Depends on your values, depends on what you want your life to look like. All right.
That's where true peace comes from, is to realize I don't have to strive that hard. I don't have to, I just need to touch a handful of people's lives to have made a difference. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a ripple effect anyways. Even if it's 5 or 10, those 5 or 10 people know 10 or 20 people, and their lives are effective, et cetera, and it's exponential.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so what advice would you have for someone who is in 7th grade, who's 27, who's 37, or even 67, like you were mentioning earlier, looking for a meaningful career? Well, you kind of touched on this already. Looking for a meaningful career where they can use their strengths, and it's about like what lights you up. You already said that. Is there anything else you want to add to, like, what do you tell your kids? What do you, your clients?
Yeah. So, so many of us, when we come out of high school, we're 17 or 18 years old. And here's the thing, now at this age, I would never let a 17 or 18-year-old say, guide me on my career path. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, hey, 17-year-old, what should I be doing? So why do we demand that of our 17 and 18-year-olds who are just graduating high school? What do you want to do for the rest of your life? So really, it's recognized that you do change over time. Your values change over time. In your 20s, you were about look at me. In your 30s, it's about how do I get stability. In your 40s, it's about how do I leave a legacy. In your 50s, it's about adventure and health. In your 60s, that part's amplified. And so look at really you changing deliberately. So the goal here is now to look ahead to what do you want and who do you need to become to have what you want. And that's part of powerful presence. When I talk about being the powerful presence mentor, most people will step into their day going, it's another day. And it's like, no, no, you're stepping into your day. You get to own it and you get to live into values that you are placing there because of someone you are becoming deliberately, not becoming incidentally. Oh, incidentally, I grew. Push yourself. So along the way, I didn't know in 7th grade that I wasn't going to have a beautiful little private practice and see couples and individuals. It's like I had no idea that what I do now, that I don't even know if this existed.
Mm-hmm.
So really allow yourself the opportunity to step into your current values. And more important than that is be deliberate about your future values. Who do you need to become and start living those?
I love that. It's such a better take on, oh, I want to be a lawyer, for example, or a doctor. I'll go to school, I'll do all the courses, I'll do all the training, and then I'll just be that. So it's, and that's how I was taught. You go to school, you get the degree, and then you can go have that job. You can have what you want because you studied and you learned, instead of thinking about it as, who do you want to become? Who do you want to develop into? How do you want to grow? Looking at yourself as the center of it, instead of just the job or the opportunity or the role is the center, and you're kind of molding yourself along the way. That's such a better way to think about it, and it's freeing. And then, like you said, you have control, and it's more deliberate, and you're creating what you want, instead of just saying, like, looking at the end and saying, oh, those are the 12 classes I need 5 years of it. Okay, I'll just do that, and then I'll just end up at the end, I'll just be there.
Yeah,
No.
that's how you tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to the end.
Yeah.
And some people just hope that the end comes soon enough, and it's like, no, no, every day can be an amazing adventure, and allow yourself, in fact, force yourself if you need to, into that place of growth. It's like, who do I want to become tomorrow, and how do I live my life today as a result? Awesome, this is great, I deliberately choose growth. That puts you in a place of peace as well as agitation. It is a peaceful discomfort that you start to feel, and that is true growth. It is there's nothing like it. It's like, well, the only way I can describe it is sort of like this body buzz you get after too much caffeine. It's like, yeah, let's go.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that peaceful discomfort. I wish kids in high school and in college were taught this concept, because it's so much more peaceful, like you said. So you have a little discomfort, but you're excited about it because you're going after,
Yeah.
you're changing every day about who you're becoming, and it is more deliberate, and then you get to design it. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, one final question for you. What do you think, or what if anything, do you wish you had learned earlier in your life or your career? So it could be personally or professionally.
Yeah, just personally, it's to trust myself, right? Like I had this sense of the teacher was crazy when he told me I was ridiculous and that path was ridiculous and I'd never get there. And it was like, part of my unreasonableness was, well, I'll show you. And I didn't need to do that as sort of an obstreperous adolescent. It didn't have to be an FU kind of reaction to, I'll show you, I'll go on and get my doctorate. It was more like, I wish I had been in a place of peaceful resolve, which is, that's fine, your drama, not mine. I know my path. I know my path is one of growth. Like, so to trust myself, just truly, truly trust myself. That's what I wish I could tell myself, if I was to go back.
Yeah, I love that too. That peaceful resolve, and I'm thinking about my journey and the things that, the turns that I took, et cetera. If I had someone say to me, like, I remember at one point I wanted to stop. I was in college. I was paying for it myself. I was making my own decisions because I was paying for everything myself. And my mom had said to me, like, if you quit now, I wanted to pause because I was getting a marketing and economics degree, and I think I want to do teaching, but now I'm almost a senior in college. Like, do I pause, or this was somewhere along the line, I can't remember. And I said, I think I'm going to wait. It's just like even 6 months. I'm going to finish because I wanted it for myself, not because anyone told me I needed it. I really wanted an education, so I wasn't afraid of finishing. And I was working hard. I was working 2 jobs and going to school, so I'm not worried about that. I want to make sure I'm focusing in my attention on the right things. And she said, well, you'll never go back if you quit. And I said, and it was just a peaceful resolve. Like, you can think whatever you want. I know that I'll go back. And it's not like you said to say F you, it's to say, I have absolute certainty that that's what I'm going to do because I decided to do it a long time ago. I just need to pause for a minute because I'm going to trust myself and make sure I'm doing the right thing before I go spend my money on something that I don't want. And I went back and I finished with great grades, and I paid for everything myself. And it was exactly how I thought it was going to be. But it was that moment, like, you need those moments. And when you're trusting yourself and you have that peaceful resolve and you know what you can do, it doesn't matter what anyone else says to you. You can use it as fuel, or you can just say, like you said, that's your thing. That might be your fear, but it's not my fear.
Exactly.
I love that.
That's perfect.
Awesome. Any closing comments?
Am I allowed to offer the audience a way of reaching me?
Of course. Say what, yes, however you want, however they can get in touch with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I am a Amazon #1 international best-selling author. I have 5 books out there. And if you would like the significance factor, there is a free download for that on my website. The significance factor is one of my #1 best-selling books. And you can find that I'll give you 2 ways of getting there. They both point to the same direction. One is waynepernell.com, WAYNEPERNELL.com. What might be easier to remember is Dynamic Leader. Dynamicleader.com will get you to the waynepernell.com website. So go to the website. You'll be able to see the significance factor, enter your name and email, click download, poof, you have
Awesome.
a book. You also, Wednesdays with Wayne is my blog, and that'll come to you every week. So
awesome. I think, like, we didn't talk much about your books, but the fact that you wrote 5 along the way is pretty cool too. So you're just working, and then did you write a book a long time ago and then kept doing more, or did these all come like one on top of the other?
Yeah. So I wrote my first 8 years ago, when I realized there's so much more in me than just doing sort of the day-to-day. And I was doing a lot of work with women and some men as well. And I took this amalgamation of 300 women that were going through similar struggles over the course of some time. And it was like, let me just put that into words, because we all have these struggles. And so the first book I wrote is called Choosing Your Power. Choosing Your Power.
Okay.
And it's really the subtitle is becoming who you deserve to be at home and in the world. And it's really allowing yourself to step in and own that your space, right? Learning how to communicate and learning what a good relationship is and learning what true freedom is. And so that's choosing your power. And then I held some traditional jobs while I was building my business. And then it was like, you know what? I'm seeing some leadership stuff emerge as a theme, and let me just teach that in a book. And so I built the significance factor. Along the way, there was a contribution to a different book with Brian Tracy, where I had the concept of meaning maker leadership, and how do we bring meaning to the work we do? And after that, I did the significance factor, and then dynamic transitions became the international best-selling one. And then I have another leadership book out there as well. leadership
Wow.
lessons from the road. Yeah. The
Leadership lessons.
significance factor is a big one, and it really helps people define what does success look like now, and who am I with that, and um, how do I turn my success into something that matters. Significance is truly about giving back and making a difference in someone else's life. So that's the significance factor.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and expertise. I'm looking forward to people hearing about you, because I know that you're going to continue to do great things, and if people can come and work with you one-on-one, or
Yes.
and they can go to your website and see your book. But if they want to work with you one-on-one, you're offering that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for opening that door. That's awesome. I'm running a group program called the Powerful Presence Program. I've got one-to-one coaching at a higher level, and it is life-changing. It's definitely the work I do over and over and over again. That's the feedback I get is, wow, this was life-changing. And so if you're ready to make that move, for not just an incremental move, but an exponential move, yes, I am available to help guide that process for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Truly.
thank you.
All
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you loved this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.